Yeah. Test, test, test. Looks like audio is working. All right, we're about 13 minutes out from policing. I'm going to go ahead and start this early because I'm going to leave the room and I'll be back in a few minutes as I drop some stuff off to my office. Um, so basically what I'm saying is if you're starting this video from the get-go and you're watching it after the fact, you feel free to fast forward about 12 minutes now. That should be when we're going to start with the class. Um, Other than that, you have fun. I'll be right back. Let me go drop off that.
Yes. There's something. Okay. I want to your first name, the land. Donato. I can't think of like the land. The easiest way I can help you out in one of two ways. Think of the Spanish Zanata or the welcome, but instead of day, so instead of day, nada, it's or think of the famous Italian sculptor and he used the term Donatello, but you just drop Ella. It is. But I can't think of Ella. Yeah, but now it's very fun. That's Donato's the shortened way to say Donatello. Aren't you that? 108 years ago.
No, right, I'm back.
Now I'm
I
making.
wanted to drop some stuff off. Ha. Steal some stuff. Ooh. Good. Oh.
I did. I lived once, I was exactly. So.
Ah.
I like to walk here more.
If you're watching this after fact and wondering what I'm doing, I'm hiding these in here. So that way, whenever the board disappear, I still have some. It's trying to come in 3 people. It's an excellent view. Admit all.
I just graduated. I just graduated.
All righty. If you can hear me, first you're gonna see me walk around. I'm hiding these in the room because I brought some in here. Was it last week? And those floated off. And so you have control over a landscape. Make sure you set it up for your own face with your own band. You don't write it now. For that, it's right there. Except for you all, if you come in here, you'll know it's there. That's a resource you'll have for paying attention. Cool. I'll be right back. I gotta go grab a drink. A cup of coffee from downstairs. Hopefully it won't take me but a couple minutes.
Yes, sir. He's always big fan of it. But the only thing I don't like about it is he doesn't, like he said, okay, I'm gonna give you these online quizzes, this. He's never on time with that stuff. So, but I kind of laugh whenever they start asking questions about it on Zoom. Yeah, I say. You know, he doesn't do that. He's slow with that stuff. I kind of drove me nuts last. That's what I'm just getting at. Was I was talking about being here last year with him with his classes.
So where all were you stationed at when you were in the army?
Oh, I was just at Fort Bragg.
Fort Bragg?
Yeah, when you're an 82nd, you're an airborne guy, they never send you anywhere else unless you get out of it, you know, when your contract's up.
And I spent after A school and one of my C school trainings, I spent a year in Bahrain, and then I spent the rest of my time at Coronado, which is right next to San Diego at Naval Air Station.
Yeah. So how long are you in?
Just a little over 3.5. I didn't do the full 4 because they started downsizing. So yeah, well, because it was because I was in from 2008 to 2011, and that was like right around the time like we had just killed bin Laden, so there wasn't a whole lot of activity anymore with ISIS, or the ISIS hadn't really been around yet, but there wasn't any more activity with Taliban and Al Qaeda. So like we looked like we were starting to you know,
Yeah.
go towards peacetime and start to scale down. And it was like, just, you know, what, like, maybe a year and a half or two after I got out that the whole ISIS thing started.
Yeah. Well, I only did 3 years. I went in the army. I'm kind of gung ho. You know, I like the airborne. I like infantry and all that crap. But I did. But I don't know. I was kind of disillusioned because it was right after Vietnam, and the army was really like non-professional after Vietnam. You know, most guys went in the army to get out and go into prison. You
Yeah.
know, and it just didn't. I don't know. Just plus, I got my GI Bill. See, that's why I'm going to school now for free because I paid my GI Bill for my college when I first started way back then, and
Yeah.
then now I never used my Pell Grant, so it didn't cost me nothing to go to school. So,
That's why I'm going to school as a GI Bill. So
all right,
yeah.
It's kind of a hobby. It's better than sitting around the house because my wife's. I've been married for 36 years this year, and she's in a nursing home, and it's really we're not together all the time. You know, when you spend your whole life with somebody, it's kind of hard when you get old.
yeah.
And she's pretty sick.
Oh,
But I got bored, so I thought, well,
my plan now that now I'm at NSU, because like I said, I already worked for Cherokee Nation as an armed security officer. So my plan is now that I'm here at NSU, is to go in the guard, and do ROTC. So that way, as soon as I graduate, I can get commissioned as a second lieutenant. Then whenever I do graduate, I'm gonna try for the marshal service again.
Yep. Need to plan it out. I did a lousy job on planning my life.
Well, it's taken me about 10 years now to finally get it planned out.
Well,
Get my
my
feedback
problem
there.
was the only thing I did in the army was learn how to do this.
Well,
That was another reason I got lost all my self-discipline.
And that happens. That happens to almost every military member at some point.
transparency,
Yeah. But it
accountability.
took me, I don't know, my first 30 years was basically just raising my kids and working and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
That.
Got them all through school
Yes.
and college. And I just said, well, I'll just go back and finish 40 years later.
All right. I don't know if I'll use
So you
that.
kind of look like a FDR with that hat, the way he got it up
Oh,
there
thank
today.
I'm just wearing like that because I'm hot. My
She's got
hair's
pictures
messy.
of him riding around. He's got that big cigarette holder and in his car with his hat back
I
like that.
like it. I like it a lot. All right, I'm going to share this real quick. So we'll go through the PowerPoint a little bit. We'll probably be as a launching point for some good conversations. But first, I'm going to run back downstairs because apparently it's quicker for me to run up the stairs, down the stairs, and back up the stairs. I get and making a cup of coffee.
You forgot your coffee. That's why you
No, I actually bought a cup of coffee. It was like, this is taking too long. I'm going to go back up here and set the up and run back down.
All right, take your time. We're not in a hurry. He's pretty easy.
Yeah, he's seems pretty nice and laid back.
Yeah. He's a little bit hard to follow sometimes though. But I don't know. The only thing if he follows the same format he had last year, he basically gives you quizzes, assignments, and tests. And the assignments are some kind of a reading off of some
And that's
case study or
I
something.
don't think you were here the first day last Monday.
I wasn't.
Yeah, and that's what he said last Monday. Is he said it was going to be like that. He said it was 4 sections, so 4 assignments, 4 quizzes, and 4 exams.
Yeah, I kind of thought about changing my major. See, I'm kind of, like I say, I'm just doing this because I'm bored, but I don't really know how to type very much, so I don't like typing. So I was into history, but that's way too much type.
Gotcha.
All right. So last time we had kind of been talking about a few different things. We've kind of been looking at this a little bit in terms of hitting the big topics, legitimacy, trust, that kind of stuff. And so we'll talk about that real quick as we go through it, just so you can get the highlights as we move forward, because this is, kind of covered most of the stuff already. Major responsibilities, you know that already. That kind of thing. Forward. We start talking about democratic processes, legitimacy, transparency, accountability, all of that good stuff. Effectiveness is where you start hitting at across all of those. So, remember where we left off last time? I think we're talking a little bit about some of the history a little bit in terms of legitimacy and those types of things. Basically, we start getting at is really our guys started echoing last time. You're talking about 60s and 70s, just have all these new strategies implemented because we're getting into different things. 80s come around, I don't know if it's yuppies, probably, I don't know. Society kind of corporatized a little bit. Everyone starts looking back at the stuff we were doing. We're using measures that were developed basically following World War II. And as we're doing that, it's like these numbers just don't jive. We're not seeing any of our efforts doing it. If you look at it across the field, you actually see it, they'll refer to it as the nothing works era. They really do, like the 80s, like late 70s, 80s, 90s to some degree. And then over in the 2000s, when they started to revisit that a fair bit, qualitative stuff and the research side starts coming back in. So I start looking at things from that perspective. It's around something like, 5 minutes, 37 seconds. It's like, okay, when I'm walking this neighborhood, I can see an appreciable change here. Like, yeah, look, they're starting to maintain the grass a little bit. Some of that junk crap got cleaned up, and there's still bars and there's still problems, that kind of stuff, but not how to run here as much. That kind of stuff. Slowly over time, that kind of stuff makes a big difference. It's just figuring out how you're going to measure it and track it, that kind of stuff. Openness and transparency are long-standing issues in policing. They've been here since the beginning, and they'll always be there. You'll never get away from that. That's the rhetorical question. I don't remember who said it. Who watches the Watchmen, kind of thing. Because that's always an issue. You have that much power concentrated in any type of group, any type of people. Just have that power at all. There's huge dangers with it. Talk about accountability. It's going to tie into that transparency thing. If you don't know what they're doing, there's no way to hold anybody accountable for anything. What does this thing do? We talked a little bit about that last time in terms of ranges of behaviors. It's, to include positive stuff, you there, all the way into death. And so those are very broad options if you look at it that way. Like you need that level of discretion. You need it across things, this type of stuff you count. And so being able to explain yourself, that kind of stuff is huge. This is talking about the task force itself, their recommendations. They're just probably the funniest thing you'll see, and at some point I'll make an assignment about it. These things always echo each other. You read one, you've read them all basically. You'll see small differences if you keep reading it, but that's about it. Maybe it's changing perspective or maybe how they order stuff, but it's basically a few hundred years of reading the same kinds of recommendations. You need to watch what people are doing. Yeah. Shit, that's why we have police in the first place. Right? It's like, that's kind of what they're getting at here. It'd be like talking with you whenever I make that assignment. It's in this class. I'm having a little trouble remembering that actually. I think it's in this class. It could be over on maybe procedure. The Lexow Commission, the Brady Commission, the Kerr Commission, and there's a couple other commissions or committees and that kind of thing. Typically what you see there is it's almost like an organizational response is what you get. We'll talk a little bit probably in this class about it there. That's it. That's where it'll come up exactly. This organizational response to some degree. They've had a problem that took place. How are we going to address it? Well, we need to hit it on those fronts to some degree. What's it going to look like? Well, we're going to start going and talking to people. We're going to do a process that seems to be legitimate. Typically what you'll see is, okay, we're going to put together this committee to go and review this incident. As we're doing that, people we have on board, that kind of thing. This, right? They're doing it right. You have like citizens oversight committees, that kind of stuff. We'll talk about that when we get into complaints and that kind of stuff in some later chapters. Basically what that is if someone who's completely unattached to this can see it reasonably and how to explain to them, then you're probably doing all right. Right? Realize though at the same time, there are times when it's hard to explain it to the experts because this stuff's complex. It is. Like, okay, walk me through this. Well, this is like a 6-month-long operation. What's going on here? Cliff notes, that kind of a thing, right? There's a lot to handle there. the judgments there, whenever we get into it, basically it's like, yeah, you be very careful because you have to have the experts there. The experts are going to be connected to that. You have to have an outside person there that be able to explain it and not have those connections kind of things. And sometimes so it's just goes all over the place. It always does. Yeah, that kind of stuff. But when we get into it, you'll see it. It's like yeah, history does definitely echo. Yeah, there's a lot of echo there. I don't know what this thing says. Democracy and police. Yeah, public meetings, establishing connections, basically identifying community stakeholders, that kind of stuff. Trying to integrate with society. Here you go. Big conversation. That one's so big, I don't really know how to start that one really. Due process, we've talked about a little bit in here. I think, yes, when we talk about constitutional rights, when we do that in this class, does that sound familiar? I'm in here for 3 hours straight Monday and Wednesday, so I can't remember. Ooh, it's gonna bounce out or maybe pop back in. Admit. Okay, so what I'll tell you is that my procedures class, whenever I teach it, about half the semester is spent just on this thing right here, unreasonable searches and seizures, right?
The Fourth Amendment.
Yeah. Because it's half of what you do is going to just start right there with that door. Sometimes literally, it's like, yeah, that matters, right? And so since that's an initial step, is one of the most important.
Because seizure doesn't only just mean property, it's seizing their person. So like when you try to detain them or arrest them.
Yeah, and
So-
it's sort of like that.
If you're gonna violate their
Ooh.
Fourth Amendment right, you have to have a due cause for doing it.
Oh, good golly, I think I just son with this joke because you might like this one a little bit. Tina, no, not Tina Turner, it was Meatloaf. Had a song came out. Stop right. Yeah, now that one. Yeah, stop right there when you say that. They stop. Have you seized them? You haven't touched them at all. Did you tell them to? And they abided? Yeah, you seized them. They're no longer free. If you did something wrong, let them go. You know, that kind of thing. Right?
That's why you see a lot of the people that like to
Push shit.
that put up the videos. That's why they always ask, "Am I free to go?" Because
Yeah.
the cop says no,
Yeah.
you're being seized.
Yeah. Usually what they do is they'll just say, wait right there. Right? Still processing. I can't give you an answer. That's kind of what that's saying right there. And that's actually an accurate sentence. It's like that's what you should be doing. You're still processing. There's a lot involved in there. Because there's a person there. Those things are complex. They scare me. Especially when there's a lot of them around. Those things are frightening. Right to an attorney. That's just giving them one of those things. Basically, that's that incorporation controversy. I think I mentioned that in here. That could have been in my evidence class. It might have been evidence class. Basically, what that is for any constitutional right that you have, when you get to this initial insertion into the court processes, it's going to be challenged under the 14th Amendment as due process. We did not follow the proper process. Thing says here we got this right. What's up? You know, that kind of. And so that's what we're going to do. There's a whole lot of stuff related to that in terms of like what functional rights you have, where they sit, how you look at who grants who what. That's always the interesting one right there. The Cliff Notes version of that is your rights, not anyone else's, not the government's rights. That's the government just acknowledging, yeah, you got those things, and we're going to abide and let you have as much choice as you have related to those things as you can, because life likes to put boundaries on things, that kind of thing. We take flow from where's what's an interesting one, because that's the one that's like, where do you see yourself relative to the system, right? Are they acknowledging that you have those rights are yours? Are they granting you those rights? That's one element of it. And then there's like the reality of it is if you don't manage that, that's a whole bunch of people with guns. It's like, yeah. Very, very important. Right to attorney is one of those things. Also, kind of interesting thing is both of those things were like split decisions at the time. We hold them as like, yeah, that's the standard. Well, when it came through, no, it wasn't. But we had to have it. Society changes. It's good. You have a question?
Yeah, but it was on the
Oh
other.
yeah, I can go back. Oh yeah, we got time.
I mean,
Yeah, what's that?
no, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh,
Mhm.
so the Supreme Court curtailed some practices that violate. What were some of those practices?
Yeah.
That
So violating
violated
the
standard
Amendment.
was what but it was just the fourth. But
Mhm.
I know one thing, this is way back in history, and I remember
Mhm.
reading it in the policing about, I don't know if it's, I take 3 different classes. I'm kind of like you, I can't remember.
I know it's right in this room. It was a conversation.
But it was like when they used to, and people see things have changed so much with the because they used to beat the crap out of people
Oh,
to get them
yes.
to confess.
Mm-hmm.
Now today, that's like unheard of.
Oh yeah, you won't find that to some degree. I mean, you can
So
find
they-
it. It'll be hidden.
So what they did is they changed that from beating a confession to,
Mental.
keeping you in a holding cell
Yeah.
for, 48, 72 hours
I can torture that.
with little sleep to,
Mhm.
no access to food or water.
Yeah, 72 hours is
Instead
all
of
it takes to
phys-
drive
instead of
someone
physical,
completely
it's mental.
insane when it comes to.
And they're not
sleep.
supposed to do it because that's still,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why you have the right to a lawyer.
But
But
what-
yeah, so in terms of practices, I can't remember if you have procedures on because there's a bunch of cases that will be within there if you've not. Probably some of the big ones are some of the earlier cases. You'll see things like, these 5 officers decided we don't really care that we're in Chicago and that guy's over in Michigan. He committed a murder. That was against one of our own. We're gonna blackjack his backside and bring him right back here, and he's gonna be hogtied on the stairs right here. Whenever they walk up into the courtroom, that kind of thing. It's like, hey, we found you. That kind of thing. It's like, yeah, that was an unreasonable search and seizure. That's a kidnapping. Yes, that's exactly what that was. But in terms of the eyes of the law, the prosecutor decided, hey, they don't give a shit, right? They're not going to prosecute that. That's a separate crime. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you yourself have committed that murder. They'll still prosecute you, right? So yeah, it's like if you talk to the border of Mexico, someone really want to go get you and bring you back, they're taking on a whole lot of liability. They might violate a whole lot of laws. If they get caught, they're getting caught. But there's also that whole element of it's like you'll see it in the movie that was The Sound of Freedom. Like that one's a good one because you're dealing with that type of population, criminal group, the pedophiles, that kind of thing. It's like that group. Like a lot of people have no problem with just acts in that group. It's like, that's kind of a good thing. You need to act that group to some degree. That behavior in a group is what I'm talking about. But it's at the same time, if you go back to, I think it was the 80s or 90s, it's like they literally had a guy who shot a pedophile live on television. And I think they tried it. I think he had a trial. I can't
that
remember.
was the 80s.
Was it the
I know what
80s?
you're talking about. It was a dad who his son was learning karate from the
Yeah.
instructor. The karate instructor was a pedophile, molested his 12, 13-year-old son.
Yeah, took him up on, we're going on this,
The
mhm.
dad was like, wait, I think it was like the Atlanta airport. The dad was like on a phone waiting for him to be.
You can still find the video,
You
yeah.
can still see the video of it. Like
Mhm.
dude's in handcuffs being escorted by the cops. Dude hangs up one of those payphones, turns around, pops him in the head with a revolver.
Yep.
All they did is they charged him.
So they did charge him, right? They didn't even.
They charged him with I can't remember what type of manslaughter,
Mhm.
but he didn't really even serve any prison
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, well, sometimes they don't even charge him at all. They had a guy in Texas, I think it was a few years back. I can't remember if he beat the guy to death or not, but I mean, it was something that guy was going to need some surgery, kind of thing. And it's like that's a major crime. We got to do anything about that? No, because of what that guy did, right? It's like that's understandable to some degree. And so
What's another one that they
Oh.
abuse? What other
the
practice besides?
that one was the reason we have the exclusionary rule, because that kind of stuff was kind of a common practice. If I violate your Fourth Amendment rights, and let's say you're driving an automobile down the car or driving down the street, I pull you over and it's the prohibitionary. And it's like you got liquor in there. So I'm going to violate your rights because maybe I've not done all the math. Say, yeah, how heavy is this vehicle? It looks like it's overweight, and you're where you go. I'm just going to go and get out. And I'm going to start tearing into it. That kind of stuff was so common. That's why we have the exclusionary rule. It's not the best kind of thing in history, but in terms of what it does, it's like you have to realize that the first thing we did is we put a standard where there hadn't been one. That probable cause is that word element, that probable more than likely. So you actually are putting measures in, is what we're doing, to try to create a system that works. Another example of that would be like right to attorney, landmark cases of that. Of course, you know, silence. This one was dude's asking for a lawyer. His lawyer's trying to. He's at the station. We're gonna just kind of. You wait over here. No, your lawyer doesn't want to see you. He said this was going on here. He really doesn't want to talk to you at all. So and you start working the guy over, and that's what they did. It's like no, the guy was over here. The attorney was, and your officers were directly preventing you from getting the counseling request. That kind of stuff happens a lot. Not a lot, but happened a lot. And so you have to figure out those rules as we go. Legitimacy, that kind of thing, following rule of law. Guardian mindset, yeah, we're not attacking, we're guarding. Procedural justice, we've already talked about. Makes a difference to them. Yeah, that's a big part of it. I think I talked about that last time. Guiding for good police. Cooperation, police encouraging people to do. Yeah, that's actually a very big element. I talked a little about that when I was talking about roles. I talked about the inversion of that though, because that's one of my things kind of interesting to play with because most people when they're dealing with police officers, they don't also see them as citizens. That's how I presented that one. It's actually left us all the different roles. Basically, go back to that very first slide where it says, you know, you're enforcing the law, you're serving the public good, you're whatever, you know. At the same time, it's like you're a citizen, you provide that role. Realize that the citizens there also serve multiple roles in terms of society, in terms of as they relate to the police themselves directly at any one point in time. It'd be like saying, you know, courtroom actors kind of thing. Same kind of thing going out on the street. You know, the people that you run into the street, they're going to be the ones who are giving you the information. They're going to be the ones causing the trouble. They're also going to be the ones, yeah, they're going to be the ones calling, they're the ones giving the information, they're going to be the ones testifying, they're going to be the suspects themselves. They're going to be somebody who's standing by, not paying any attention. They're going to be all over the place, right? And so you'll want to get as much cooperation you can because, you know, it's sort of like saying one of the strongest predictors for whether or not a crime is successfully prosecuted is how much information the officer who responded is able to acquire, right? It's one of those things that's kind of self-evident, but you don't really think about it, you don't really get it. The first person who's there on the scene is going to be grabbing everything, and the more that's available, the better it is, better your chances. Right there at the heart of it. I don't know what the next slide's talking about. Okay, practices that build legitimacy. Yeah, look like you're handling things. That kind of stuff. Public events give community members chance to express, frank. Yeah, so this is kind of the stuff where they talk about community meetings, that kind of stuff. Some places they do that. Sometimes it's topic specific, sort of like what I was mentioning before, like an organizational response kind of thing. They'll do that too. It just depends on what kinds of specific problems are in an area. Opportunity for people to voice themselves publicly is limited. I'm really curious to see what direction that goes because how stymied people are to talk publicly already. And now you're talking to the group that matters the most kind of thing. It's like, how are they going to engage in that kind of stuff? So far, it's not been pretty good. It's been fireworks, literally sometimes. That's a bad pun. Okay. Respectful policing. Legitimacy. Be respectful. I actually don't like that one. I really don't. Introducing yourself, explaining the reason you're there, listening to people answering questions. I don't think that's respect. Really don't. And I like what they're going with there. I usually try to draw a distinction between decency and respect. That's where you get that old saying of decency or respect is earned. You be decent people. I'm like, you want my respect, I'm gonna have to get to know more than just this stuff. I'm gonna see a lot more than just this. That will help though. That kind of a thing. How you doing? No damn bad words. No language. That's a really big one because the stuff you're dealing with, that's actually a very, very good way to deal with stress. How many of you have ever heard that cursing provides an analgesic effect? It does. Like biological. It's like that's crazy. It works. It's sort of like people who what's the religious one where it's like those who meditate and stuff like that. It's like you can put them through pain that most people couldn't handle and they'll brush it off. Why? Because they're not there sometimes, right? That's kind of an interesting topic overall. I went off topic with that one. I don't know where I was going with that. But yeah, prohibiting bad language. How you do it, the stress of it, that kind of stuff. It comes out. You hear it in the voices. It's one of those characteristics that if we get into some of the hard stuff that's here, hard stuff to hear that is in here, I should say. God, that's a lot of years. You'll hear it. It's sort of like remember word really good. Here's a good example. Psychological stress tests, that kind of stuff. Boots. You guys ever heard that one? Oh, I forget who actually says it. Okay, I won't play it for you because maybe I will play a little bit of it here in just a second. They don't do that in police. I think that was military. If they want to do psychological torturing, they'll just put this on repeat on full blast for hours at a time. It's a Kipling. I can't remember the name of the author. Basically, what it is, he's describing war, and the person who's reading it's a dramaticist kind of thing. They're giving a dramatic reading of it, and so as it goes, he's describing the movements of the soldiers, that kind of stuff. You can hear the timbre of his voice.
Said Rudyard Kipling,
I think
the
so.
author of the Jungle Book.
I think so. I can't remember though. I'd have to look it up because that's been a number of years since I bumped into that one, because it's like you hear it. If you were paying attention over the course of it, what happens is it slowly escalates. As it does, your nerves slowly break. As that slowly happens, it just keeps building. It doesn't stop. There's no resolution. It just keeps stopping. It just keeps going. There's no stopping. And then it's on repeat. And so you just, and it's just when it can't get worse. Oh, we're right back to the beginning. We're going to start over again. Right? Because in some ways, that's kind of like war. It never ends. That's a hard thing to deal with. I'm going to play a little bit of that now. No idea what link that is to.
As I'm in the midst of
I don't want to hear that. It's the blues music I listened to in EE last class. All right, this is going to be boots, boots, boots on repeat, moving up and down again. I don't care about the actual image, the poem that will drive you insane. Oh, he's talking about, there you go. Rudyard Kipling, I guess there. Rudyard Kipling's poem, Boots, recited by Taylor Home, 1915. All right.
Barefoot, cloud, climbing over Africa. Foot, flogging over Africa. Boot, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11, 5, 9 and 20 miles a day. 4, 11, 17, 32 the day before. Boot.
I'll stop that for a second. You know what that was, right? Those are the distances that they're traveling. They're having to track all that stuff. They're filling out reports while they're doing this and having to move in that way. There's the urgency there. They
Moving
did
up
really
and
well.
down again.
I like that.
There's no discharge in the war. Don't look at what's in front of you. Move, moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war. Count the bullets in the bandoliers. If your eyes drop, they will get the top of you. Boom, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. We can sit out hunger, thirst, and weariness, but not the chronic psychism.
Can't take your eyes off it. You're dead.
Moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. Ain't told bad by day because the company, but night brings long brings the 40,000 million moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. I have my weak in hell and certify it is not fire, devil, dark, or anything but boom, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. Cry. To think of something different. Oh, my God, keep me from going on again. Come on. Barefoot.
That started over again. Building and building and building so you can hear it in that way. It's also as referred to war as the season unending. It never ends if you're in it. Ever. Even when you leave and it is over, it goes with you. You never leave it. That's one of those things like, if they had more of that stuff in like K through 12, maybe we wouldn't be talking about like world wars and shit. But that's just my opinion. Or civil wars. I hear that one come up around. It's like, God damn, guys. Like that'd be bad. Okay. So that's what they start talking about there. Require officers a certain number of traffic tickets. Okay, that's when you start getting some of those things that are start drawing it back. Okay. So you notice that that's kind of a stark difference to what I was showing just a second ago. We're dealing with parking tickets now. Yeah, that's also policing, right? That's what they mean when it's 90 miles a minute. It's 90 miles a minute and it's I'm not moving at all. Right? That's what they're talking about. It's like I couldn't understand how people like this as a career. I do. Every now and then you get to, hey, that problem's actually fixed now. Thank you. That kind of a thing. Only for a time because it'll come right back. It's the same thing with war. And it's like if you're not keeping your eyes on it, boy, you're not keeping your eyes on it. That kind of a thing. We get into the minor of it, stuff that people tend to focus on and stuff. Tickets, the minor interactions, positives versus negatives, right there. That's a big one. You start thinking about legitimacy and trust in that. If you have kind of interactions with the police officer, almost always negative. Most people only think of it from the individual's position as like, I'm the one getting pulled over, I'm the one getting stopped or harassed or something like that. They don't really think about it as like your job is to go out there and do that. Some people do it better than others, of course, but yeah, you got this number right here. How you handling it? That kind of thing. All kinds of problems can come from that. As a practice, they don't let you do that, but also as a practice, they're going to tell you one thing and put another in print. Right? I hate that. Yeah. It's like, I remember what you said. That's not what you said. That's what's in print though. Yeah. Well, there you go. Right? Can't do that if you're operating as a society. Okay. Let's see. That offends public trust and undermines.
So do they put quotas in formal?
In some places,
Is it
yeah,
formal?
they don't actually say that, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's usually, it's usually like the
Well,
public,
you have to make so much money in a year to operate in some of these
right.
places. And if
but
you
to the
don't-
public, it's like the chief says, no, we don't have quotas. But to his men, he says, okay,
you better get some money.
you better get some money.
Yeah.
So it's like
Mm-hmm.
their balancing act
Yeah.
between the public and the police, between their own departments.
Who you lying to best and worst kind of thing. Fine, I get that.
Quite a bit of my friends are in law enforcement,
Mhm.
and whether I knew them personally or I met them through jujitsu, and some of them I've gone on ride-alongs with. But one of my friends is a OHP trooper that I've gone on numerous ride-alongs with, and he straight up told me that they have a quota to meet every month, whether that's issuing so many minor traffic citations, whether that's doing so many DUIs or whatever. Like they do have
Yeah. They're
something to meet.
right in the razor's edge of organizational monies kind of stuff. And it's one of those things that, depending on what level you're looking at it, it's going to look like, we'll take it from like maybe a mayor level perspective. How's that? The people are going to be looking at the police thing, and they're going to be thinking, is that money being used appropriately? That kind of stuff. Well, you're getting into like legitimacy, trust, and like this next, really start talking about the image that you're presenting and who you're hiring kind of thing. I'm actually going to flip it around a little bit because then you can start seeing how some of those problems exist.
Does a police budget, and this is getting off in the weeds maybe a little bit, rely on them making
Some
revenue?
do. Especially when you start getting out more rural areas, just because of the fact that they're not having enough people to generate the same kind of tax revenue at such a small level across as many people. On the flip side of that, it's like, think about how bad that some of those cities are doing, like over on the West Coast. I forget where they were talking about giving illegal immigrants, as they called them, what was it, $150,000 loans to buy houses?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're talking about that right now. We're gonna give loans out to people who have no documentation whatsoever in their jobs. And we're just
25,000.
gonna give them money. Let's say we do that. I'm gonna go buy a house. Okay, now I'm a property owner. I go do that. Now I've got a vote in the area. Yes, to some degree I own the land. Also, what's the odds I take out a second loan against that for $100,000 and I send that back home? It's like, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff like that goes on. But really what they're gonna be looking at here with that one is if it doesn't reflect the society, you're going to be dealing with problems with the people, and it's going to have the appearances of this and whatever. And so this thing became more paramount in a lot of places. That's been a big problem because if you look at it and think about it in terms of how the organization works, it's like they're trying to, with the quotes to some degree, they're recouping the money that's going into the position. to some degree, it's maintaining everything. That's one side of it. The other side, if they don't use it, that money gets absorbed back. So it goes somewhere. So sometimes people play with that a little bit. But it's kind of really interesting as we think about those processes and that, you know, the kind of racial lines that some departments do hire on because they do it. It's like my favorite one I ever heard was a guy was telling me about, it's like my department's had this position. It was one rank up from where he was. Open for a year. They told me I can apply for it next year. Right now, they're waiting for a person of X category. Like, what is that? What that tells me is that that organization has a position they don't need if they're going to leave it open for a year first. They don't need it. That's the same kind of thing that they're saying on this other side too. If you don't generate the tickets, you don't get the money, and you don't justify the position, so they're going to close it. Yeah. And so that's how that's going to work a little bit.
I think trust. See, I think that's the thing about any police. If you don't trust the police,
There's nothing.
it doesn't matter about race or ethnic or anything.
Yes.
There's nothing.
Basically, what that is, legitimacy, public trust, that kind of stuff, the perceptions there. That'll give you some indication for, I guess, positive or negativity kind of thing. If you walk in a situation, it's going to go good or bad to some degree. There's something in our psyche.
But isn't some of that a track record too? Like,
yeah,
you trust them well, it's like if you get, every time you get involved with the police, it's all about something with the law. It's not about community relations or, playing sports or whatever. It's all, you don't have any kind of,
personal,
yeah. And you don't know them except for bad, that you don't trust them at all. And you shy away from them. There's no rapport there. There's nothing. There's no relationship.
Just hostility.
Right. And that's not a good thing.
No.
That's where that trust, I think, is more important than anything else.
Oh yeah. And it's sort of like, how they, another way that I think I talked a little bit about that last. It's like when the police go into an area, how are they viewed? It's like, are you helping the problem or making it worse? Is kind of another way to look at it. Because if they view you as making it worse and you are actually there and arresting criminals and taking care of the problem, it's like, okay, then it's not just that one criminal that's the problem. It's there's something going on in that whole area across a whole bunch of people. That's going to be a big problem, right? It could be culture, and it's like then you can't address it if it's like the shifts in population, that kind of stuff, and there's some type of clash there. It's like you guys are the ones figuring that out. Good luck, right? That's why they have no-go zones in England, and they don't know what to do about it, right?
Yeah.
What is it? A couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks, something like that. They had a huge outbreak in riots, that kind of thing, where they had new population came in from the Middle East. They kind of had to set up their areas, socially isolate, like everybody does. Ended up happening is I think a couple had some type of stabbing, if I remember correctly, targeted. The person who went and did it targeted Taylor Swift like dance party or something like that, if you remember it. Ended up happening there is that group of people gets really irate, starts marching around, and then what happens is they go in those no-go areas, and that whole area starts doing the same thing. It's like, okay, what are you going to do there? Ugh.
There's a conflict. It's a lot of it. Well, you're talking about there's
Mhm.
a lot of different riots. That's the problem in England when they had the people that are actually English got upset because the people that are immigrants
Yeah, well, it's
were basically they go out and rape somebody or rob somebody and they let them out of prison. They let them off.
oh yeah, and that was happening a
And
lot.
they were getting very upset about that.
Mhm.
And they were the ones that were supposed to be the bad guys because they
Yeah,
didn't
well,
agree
it's
with.
sort of why I like the example that I think it's California was considering right now, where we're gonna give them $150,000 loans. Okay, where's that money coming from? The taxpayers. And
Yeah.
it's like you literally just took money out of this person's pocket over here. You're supposed to be helping out and giving it to someone who basically broke in, I guess. Maybe if you want to look at it that way, I don't know how to look at it. I just look at it that way and be like, what is going on there?
I hate to say this, but the interdependence on that, people used to work for a living. Now they depend on the government for a living.
That's
It's
the
like
big one.
they're trying to make the government, well, this is getting way off in the weeds, but
Yeah.
they're trying to make the government your
It's protected.
everything, your everything, like God.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that in the use of force is where it comes really clear in procedures. I think is what we're talking about. Where it's like, okay, if you want to know when you're going to be actually safe and well protected, there's 4 circumstances. You'll see it in the case of Alistair versus Pacifica. They outline it. They enumerate it specifically. four circumstances. The most overarching one is when you're in chains. We've arrested you. Now we have to take care of you because you're in our possession. Welcome back to that. It's like, let's go, let's see that one go society wide. That's not gonna be a good one. All right, that's, no. And to some degree, like those problems we're dealing with are because of that openness and transparency to some degree. It's like you start getting an idea for how things work. There's gonna be people who try to take advantage of it. That example with the numbers kind of thing. If there's enough people on one side compared to the other side, police aren't a very big force, right? If I've got 200 people surrounding a house and they're about to set fire to the house, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to arrest the person who's in the house because I don't want them set on fire, right? I'm going to get them the hell up out of there. Now, how's that going to look? They got the house now. They got what they wanted. That's not good. That's sort of like duty to retreat in Illinois. It's like someone kicks in your door and you have to leave first. I don't like that. They're in control. That's part of it. That's part of that problem.
So an openness,
Mhm.
is that? Because
That's
a
basically-
lot of times it's kind of hard to be open when you're in the police department. And
It is.
in this way, because I don't know, I watch a lot of TV. I'm an old guy, you know.
Yeah.
And you see, whenever they go up in front of the Congress, they always say, well, we can't talk about it because of, there's some investigation.
Yes, that's a
Well-
huge part of it.
How do you draw that line? I mean,
It's really, really hard. So basically what you end up doing is like, maybe you talk about it after it's closed. You can kind of blur it with the numbers a little bit. And in terms of that, it's like, there's actually quite a bit that they do that is open. It's just most people don't realize it's there, how to look at it.
what do you mean by it's open? There's a way to see what they're doing, or is it?
Yeah, like I'll show you. So before here, I was in Little Rock. I've kind of been shopping around a little bit, some of the sites here, to see, what's around kind of thing. And that would be, let's see, open data, Little Rock, Arkansas. Here we go.
Open data. Oh, okay.
They open the books on everything. So if you know how to run numbers, it's like, okay, let's see, I'm interested in this right here. So this is a bigger project, if I remember, Project Safe City. I don't remember the details of it, but basically, so there's a number of cities across the nation that are doing this kind of stuff. I can't remember if Tulsa does it. I want to say Oklahoma City's got a pretty good list, I think, but it's been a while since I looked at it. This one's really good because they what they do is they'll give you incidents by zip code, they'll offense by weapons. But if you really get into it, it's
So that's just collection data on crime.
oh yeah, all kinds of stuff, whether it's patrol
Oh, more than
districts,
crime.
the actual department statistics, that kind of stuff. They'll also do see what I'm looking for incidences. I guess I'll just grab by
Is an
zip code.
EIS something people can look at?
EIS, what's that stand for in this?
Well, I was reading in the book something, I say, I'm getting my classes confused again. But it's something to do with it's almost like a score of a police officer. It's like they keep records of his, it's like a grading scale.
Mhm.
They give him okay, he's had these many run-ins with people, he's had
Yes.
this, he's had that.
I've not seen that, but I've not actually dug into that.
And I'd have to look up what.
Yeah,
it is.
I know what you're talking about now. Sort
Yeah.
of like performance reviews kind of thing.
Yeah,
to
is
some
that-
degree.
Is that something that a lot of,
Probably not. I don't know. I'm like I said, I've not looked for that. Usually I'm more concerned with like what's going on in society kind of thing. But that is also a good question. But if you look here, and you can download this somewhere on here. I can't remember exactly where it says,
Yeah.
but they've only given you a few here, but you can see what's here. Okay. Incident itself, the incident number, its location, I guess, its actual location. And then if you get over here, you got X and Y, so you can actually map that stuff out pretty easy, right? And so you can literally see where things are taking place, how, when, what kind of stuff. If you really get into it, it's like you can really get into the data and really play with it. And more places are doing that kind of stuff because
Yeah.
it does.
early intervention system, it's in this,
Early intervention
it's in
Yes,
our
okay,
book.
so that's a
It
little
was
bit different than
chapter,
performance evaluation. The early
chapter
intervention
2.
systems, whenever.
I may be
Yeah.
ahead.
So so a little bit, but that's good. That's good because I jump all over the place.
Yeah.
I just kind of use this as kind of a guide to, okay, this is some of the things we need to talk about.
'Cause
Because
that's-
that kind of instance, what you're talking about there is they've got a secondary structure, like so that the evaluation stuff, like the reviews. If there's any type of incident, of course, you're under review for that,
Yeah.
and you know that. What that is they're starting to put in like a second level, sort of like, anytime you start to get the preventative side, I start worrying about pre-crime kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so what it is they start seeing trends in your numbers that go certain directions. And it's like, okay, to what degree do you control those trends really? It's like, how compliant is this person gonna be?
But in my opinion, okay, that early intervention system, it's almost like there's got to be a line there where it crosses between the rights of the police officer and the rights of the community.
Mhm.
It's like safety versus individual
Mhm.
rights.
Oh, yeah, that's the whole point of it, yeah.
Right.
And
But the
that's the
thing of
point
it
of it.
is,
Mhm.
where do you stop? Where do you stop?
They don't know.
Yeah.
There's no way to tell. We have to figure that out as we go, and that's part of it. And that's part of that process. So as they're doing that, basically what they'll do whenever they're instituting that kind of thing is they're gonna look to, sometimes it's like research like what we do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's other departments to see what their practices are, or they'll just start and be like, okay, here's kinds of the groups of people that we need for this. We'll get representatives from that kind of thing. We'll put it together, we'll assemble it and see how it works. And so they literally just kind of flesh it out as it goes. And with those kinds of things, you'd have that group put together. It'd be that one, depending on how specific it is, like if you're getting like really professional, basically hiring and stuff. Maybe, I don't know. I'm kind of talking out of turn because I've not done that in that area. But basically what ends up happening there is they'll kind of identify what those triggers are. It's like, okay, we see X number of maybe we have any complaints related to use of force. Like, yeah, you start looking at that. How many tickets? What's the nature of those? Are these kind of escalating in nature? When we see it's like the original call is for this, the actual resolution is this. And as they start to stack up, it's like where those thresholds are, they'll figure that out as they go to some degree. And I'm not going to say that this is an identifiable standpoint, but they'll have that.
Yeah. Because I think that EAIS, this is getting way back at George
Mhm.
Floyd.
Mhm.
They used that against that cop
Yeah.
because they kind of brought all the stuff up that he had done and he had this problem and he had that problem. And it must have been some sort of EIS. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, it's like a
So, but the
I was gonna
problem
say,
is
like
where
I
do you
said a few
cross the
minutes ago.
line between openness and your rights as an,
well, because it's such a nasty web is what it is. Because if you think about it, it's like, okay, policing side of the courts, the corrections, like the hammer kind of thing. So policing and courts are a really tight web right here. Because anything that happens, the courts have oversight of it. And so we have to revise policies, that kind of thing. In that kind of instance, and we start moving into that criminal law, I was talking about it earlier, it's like, okay, whenever you're arguing any type of case, there's usually only like 3 attacks that if you're both in broad categories. Your basic landscape there is going to be the laws at play, the facts of the specific case, and then we have this thing called character witnesses. I can get you to hate that person or love that person, you'll either convict or acquit. And so that's what they did there by bringing that in. So that's more of a, we have to bring up this person as a person. I worked in a way to get the ad hominem in there a little bit. And yeah, this is the kind of person he really is. Right. And that'd be like saying, instead of that, they brought in a medical examiner that said, here's the ranges of people who die from whatever drugs he had in his system and the speeds of that. And the likelihood that the person of this size, of this weight, of this kind of health condition, in this position, acting in this manner, could also have heart failure. To what degree? You can start getting into that, depending on how well that person makes that argument. More and more people start believing that is more likely the case than the other. What I'll tell you is, I got no clue. I just know that in terms of that, I don't think murder is the right thing, but being on this bank for as long as he is while he was unresponsive. But you're also dealing with a crowd. So it's like, do I move? Do I not? And so there's many things there. It's like, I really don't know. If I were in that position, what I'd do.
well, that would be very tough if a person
Yeah.
wanted to be in the police, wanted to be a police officer. That would be a tough decision because you're under a microscope.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of pressure.
And that's where that line becomes really blurry again.
It is.
It's like, okay, reasonableness. I don't know what that is. It's like common sense. It's actually really kind of uncommon for people to have sense at all. It's like, yeah. And so that's kind of going on with this as well. Sure, I'm gonna pop back over here. Let's see what else we got in here. We've got 2 more minutes. So accountability, we talked about use of force. We'll talk about that more when we get in the actual use of force stuff. But basically what it is we get use of force. If you're gonna have control of the situation, you need to have control of the situation. That means if there's force involved, you need to be able to use more than what's being used against you. So there's always at least like I say +1.
Equal or more.
Yeah. So always, it's like that +1, if you stay within that range, you're probably just fine. It's just you have to worry for that escalation. So if you do +1, they do +2. It's like, oh crap. Right. And it's like, all right, now we're off to the races. That's where that de-escalation starts to come. It's like, if you have that as an option, kind of pull it back. Always an option. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is, and it's been ruled out. And sometimes it's functions. Like good example I'll give you. The you guys like politics stuff a little bit, maybe. The Trump shooter type of thing. It's like the miscommunications that happen there are extremely common. It's like that kind of miscommunication is really, really easy. And for the people who are right there, it's like, yeah, how many of you are going to stick your head up whenever there's someone swinging around with a rifle? It's like, that's not going to happen. At the same point in time, there's a good parallel. I'm having trouble remembering now. The use of force stuff. Here it is. You got a hostage situation. So now you're a police officer with a rifle trained at a guy's head. He's walking out with he's got at least one person in front of him. I got kind of a clear shot. I can take it. We're trying to talk him down. I can't tell whether or not he's putting the gun down or if he's just moving forward and getting ready to pull the trigger. So I pull mine. Like, if I do I do something wrong? I don't know. And it's like, okay. It's like those same types of miscommunications that happen in that one scenario that I mentioned before can happen all the time. And I was actually talking with a guy who was giving expert witness testimony related to that. He's like, yeah, they just talked him down. He was walking out. Sniper couldn't see him directly. And so as soon as he got the shot, it had not been radioed through to haste him out. Like the water. That's it. Lights up. Horrifying. But there you go. I'll leave you on that note for a good way to end the day. Have a great one. I'll see you guys on Monday, all right?
Yeah, not Monday. Wednesday.
Is today Wednesday or is today Monday?
Today's
Today's
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Sorry,
Yeah,
next
see,
Monday's Labor Day.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, unless you want to come in on Monday,
I probably would have. I was here Sunday.
you get a day off.
Yeah. I do like it here though. It's really quiet on Sunday.
You know, that's the best day to work, actually.
It
You know,
is.
everybody's gone.
The
Nobody.
way I look at it is like that religious day kind of thing that you're not supposed to do. It's like, well, I only serve people, so let's serve the stuff. Right?
Yeah. But that's very interesting. That
Yeah, well,
religion.
it's yeah, and
Have a good day.
you too. When we get into it, they get really, really specific. Like there's a whole bunch of micro level stuff that you can do. It really
Yeah.
does help. It's just when you get there on the scene, sometimes it's like all hands on deck. We're in the middle of emergency.
Well, I think training was a big thing in that.
Oh yeah.
Because if you just react to what you've been trained, it makes your job is easier than if you have to make a decision.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
If
sort
it's
of
not
like,
automatic, you know.
Yeah, and I'll leave this and I'll shut this off for you guys on there because you might like this part. It's sort of like if you're ever online, you can find on YouTube plenty of people shoot guns and train on that kind of stuff. And what
Yeah.
they'll tell you is like, I don't, what you practice is what you do. It's not what
Exactly.
you remember. You're training like your lower brain. It's not you. This is dumb monkey with adrenaline. Bunk. I can get it. Maybe it'll work.
Second decisions, everything
Yeah.
should be automatic.
Yeah.
And you should be trained.
Yeah. It is. All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. All right.